Hello, hello, hello. I am so delighted to be with you all for Book Week Scotland. If you don't already know, I am an author and an illustrator, which means I write words and I draw pictures for storybooks, and this is my recent book, The Girl Who Stole the Stars. Let's get started. Today I am super excited to be with you for some creative writing. Some of you might be sitting there going, oh no, not writing. And you know something? That probably would have been me when I was in school, because actually I found writing really difficult because I wasn't very good at spelling. But I have good news, because you don't actually have to be good at spelling in order to write an amazing story. So let's get started. Today we're going to be writing stories about inanimate objects. You're already probably thinking, what on earth is an inanimate object? And also, how do you even say the word inanimate? It's quite a tricky one. So I think what we'll do is we'll have a go at saying it all together. So I'm going to say it and then you're going to say it. So if you're ready, here I go first. Inanimate. You say it. Okay, one more time. We're going to say it a little bit louder. Inanimate. Excellent. All right, let's get into it. I wonder if you actually know what an inanimate object is. So first challenge for you to think about is, what is an inanimate object? And I'm going to literally give you 10 seconds to have a quick chat to the person next to you or the group that you're with. What's an inanimate object? Go. Okay, let's see if we can do this digitally. Let's have some hands up if you think you know what an inanimate object is, and your teacher can choose somebody who they think is going to know what an inanimate object is. This is the moment where we wonder if we had no hands up. Let's hope we had someone, and let's find out if they got it right. An inanimate object is an object that has never had any life. Now what that means is you could maybe choose a rock, for example. A rock would be an inanimate object because it's got no feelings, no emotions, no life. So we're going to be writing stories today. Now I know this sounds weird, but we are going to be writing stories today about inanimate objects. But we're going to be doing something cool with these because we are going to be bringing them to life. So what you're going to need today is a pencil. Make sure it's sharp. Oh, don't all go sharpening them now. You're too late now. You always have a sharp pencil for school. You'll need a sharp pencil. You're going to need something to write in. I'm going to use my notepad just in case I come up with the next best-selling picture book idea while we're doing this together. So something to write on, lined paper preferably. Could be blank paper if you want. A pencil and either googly eyes, or if you don't have googly eyes, you're going to need to cut a pair of eyes out using just blank A4 paper. Just take a piece of paper, a piece of scrap paper, cut a piece out, fold it in half, and cut a circle. 2 eyes. And all you need to do then is draw on, if I have a black pen here, which I do, draw on the pupils of the eye, the black part, and voila! All of a sudden, you have a pair of homemade, they're not quite googly, but they'll do the job. They're still the same thing, a pair of eyes. Oh, look at that. Ah. All right, so we've got our googly eyes, or you've got your paper eyes. You will need some blue tack for the paper eyes. So I've got a little bit of blue tack here. And we are going to start with our first challenge. We're going to be looking for some inanimate objects, and I'm going to give you 1 minute to find an inanimate object. Now, before you go, don't move. Before you go, I have a timer here which will tell us when your 1 minute is up. So you can choose any kind of object you want. You probably want it to be one that you're going to be able to have at your desk. You don't want it to be so big that you can't have it on your desk. And it could really be anything. You just find yourself one inanimate object in 1 minute. On your marks, get set, go. seconds left. Make your way back to your seats if you're out of your seats. Oh, maybe 10 seconds. It's going fast. Quick. All right. Your time is up. Okay, so you should be back in your seats now, and you should have found an inanimate object. Now, I was looking inside my little room, and here are some of the things that I found. So I found, obviously, since I'm an illustrator, I found a paintbrush. I found a dirty little old rubber. It's been well used. I found a hairbrush. And I found, this one's, it's got stuff stuck on it already because I've been having fun with this. I found a conker. Okay, so take your inanimate object. I'm going to have to choose. Oh, what am I going to choose? I'm going to go with the rubber. Just because I think a lot of you might have chosen rubbers as well. And this is a really well-used, well-loved little rubber. This rubber has been brilliant. If you could imagine, this rubber used to be double the size and now he's just little. So I'm going to use the rubber. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your googly eyes and you're going to stick them onto your inanimate object. Okay, so I've stuck my googly eyes onto my rubber and this is now, comes into focus, this is now my rubber. Now, hopefully you have all now got your inanimate object and hopefully your inanimate object has googly eyes. And what we're now going to think about is who your inanimate object is. Inanimate. Who are they? Because they are going to be the main character of your story. So I'm going to now give you another minute. I think we'll give you 1 minute to have a chat again with your table or with the person you're sitting next to, and you're going to have a chat about who your inanimate object is, because you're going to turn them into a character. Now what that means is you're going to need to think of a name for them, and you're going to need to start thinking about their personality. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they shy? Are they confident? Are they mean? Are they a villain? Have a think about your object and turn them into a character. And you've got 1 minute to do this with whoever you're sitting next to. You're going to have another minute on the clock and you can have a chat about it, but you can also, if you want, write down some notes on your piece of paper. And I tend to write down notes just so that I don't forget, essentially, but you might be able to keep that in your head. So I am going to choose a brand new page in my book. Lots of stories in here. And I'm going to start having a think about who this wee guy is. Is he a guy? Is he a girl? And what sort of person are they? 1 minute on the timer. Are you ready? Let's go. That's your time up. Okay, I hope you've managed to have a think about who your inanimate object actually is. What is their character? Okay, so I'm going to show you what I wrote down. So this was a bit of my thinking as I was doing this. So I was thinking, well, who is this? I know it's a rubber. So then I started coming up with our words that could go with rubber. Ricky, Ron, and then I've decided on Ralphie Rubber. Everybody say hi to Ralphie. Ralphie Rubber, he's a rubber and his name is Ralph. He's the littlest rubber you've ever seen, and we call him Ralph the Rubber. He's cool. I feel he's got a great story already. Right, let's figure out what his story actually is. What are we going to be talking about with Ralphie Rubber today? We're going to use my long arm video recorder. This allows me to film things from up high, which is actually really, really useful for me as an illustrator, especially when I'm trying to do what I call content for online, for sharing things online. So what I'm going to do is switch you over now to come and join me at my writing table. Welcome to my writing table. Now, the first thing we're going to be looking at is how do we create a story using this character. And the first thing we want to have a think about is what I call a story arc. Now, a story arc is essentially like a rainbow, and it goes like that. Story arc. And this is where your story starts. And this is where your story ends. And this is a format that lots of authors will use. What the arc basically tells us, if your story starts here and it builds up and it builds and it builds and it builds until it reaches the dun 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 moment, which is about here. That's where something happens. I'll write that in here. Something happens. And then the story is then brought to an end thereafter. So what we first of all need to think about is what is going to happen to your inanimate object character, your character that you've created. Something has to happen to them, which is part of the story arc, because otherwise, if nothing happens to them, your story starts here and it looks like this. And not many kids are going to want to read a story that doesn't have something exciting that happens in the middle. So how are we going to do a story arc? Well, we need to think of a problem. Well, I usually think of it as a problem. Oh, somebody's been in here already. We want to think about something that can happen to your character, a problem that they maybe have to solve or overcome, or something that happens to them. So I'm going to do this with my character first, and then you can go and do it with your character. So what could the problem be? What is the problem that they need to solve? So maybe this rubber gets lost and wants to find its owner. Maybe this rubber would like to find more rubbers. Rubbers. So maybe he has no friends. Has no friends. Maybe he falls out with the pencils. Maybe he is fed up of being what? I don't know. Being a rubber. Maybe he wants to be a pencil. What does he want to be? Maybe he wants to be a superhero. Maybe he wants to be a pencil. Maybe this isn't a problem, but maybe he falls in love. Who would he fall in love with? A picture? Maybe he falls in love with a picture and doesn't want to rub it out. Oh, okay. Will we think of one more thing that could happen? I don't know. I can't think of any more ideas. Maybe you've got some other ideas. So those are some of the ways I would brainstorm what is going to happen to this character. And really brainstorming, you'll see here I made mistakes, I scored them out. It's really rough, it's really sketchy. Mistakes are a good thing. You don't want to rub out mistakes because they show the progress and the progression. So now that I've shown you how I brainstorm ideas around characters, it's now your turn to take your character and start thinking about what could happen to them. And again, you can think about this as a problem that they need to overcome, or something exciting that's going to happen, or a disaster that has maybe taken place. It's up to you to have a think about that. Now, what I would advise you do is you can work with other people. Sometimes it's good to bounce ideas off one another. And I'm going to give you, how long do we think we need for this? I think we're going to give you 5 minutes on the timer. We're going to swap my 1 minute out and we're going to have 5 minutes on the timer. I'll leave that there just now. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to brainstorm all of the ideas you have for your character, and there can be lots of ideas of things that could happen, problems that need solved, disasters that could occur, and start thinking about that arc of the story. What's going to happen in the beginning, what's going to happen in the middle, your problem, and then how you're going to bring it to an end. So you're going to have a chance to have a chat to people about this, and also jot down all your answers, jot down all your ideas onto your piece of paper so that you've got them all to look back at. This part of writing a story is called the planning stage. So there are no mistakes here. There is nothing you can do wrong. It's just a case of getting all your thoughts that you have around these characters down on the paper. So 5 minutes, and I'm going to turn the timer because it's time to start. And I might do a wee doodle while you're doing that. Oh no, I'm going to have a think about Ralphie Rubber. there. I'd say 3, 2, 1, and stop. Stop. Right, Ralphie, you come with me over here. You were hanging out there. Right, so hopefully you have been thinking about your character and you've been thinking about some of the problems they may encounter and how you might consider creating a story arc for your character. While you were doing that, I've been having a wee doodle and thinking about my character, and I'm going to show you what I came up with. So I think that I'm going to choose Ralphie Rubber, and actually I've changed his name to Ralph, mainly because I couldn't fit it into the page. He might be Ralphie Rubber. We'll see. I've put Ralph. Ralph Rubber falls in love because I like the idea of a rubber falling in love. It's just so lovely. It's so nice. So let's have a look and see what I did. And there he is. This is what I'm thinking about. Ralph Rubber falls in love. I might even give him some legs. And he's like, hi. Hiya, everybody. Oh, isn't that lovely? Hiya, Ralph. Hiya. Hiya, balls. Right, so what are we going to do next with Ralph Rubber? There he is there. So by now, what you should have done is come up with several ideas, come up with lots of ideas as to what could happen to your character. Something disastrous, something funny, something sad, something like them falling in love, because my character is obviously going to fall in love. So something that's going to happen to them or something that they're going to do. Now this is essentially the middle part of your story here. So the middle part of your story has started to take shape already, which is good because this is the trickiest part that you're going to write. So what we're now going to do is we're now going to think about how we can plan and map out the story before we begin to write it. So I'm actually, interestingly enough, going to start in the middle. And I have already come up with what's going to happen. So Ralphie Rubber, I'm just going to call him RR, falls in love with a picture. So in my head, I'm thinking that the story is going to go something along the lines of his owner has drawn a picture and the owner isn't happy with the picture, and so Ralphie's watching and he's really worried because he thinks that his owner is going to rub the picture out, and he has fallen in love with the picture and he does not want that to happen. So that's really the kind of middle problem there. What's he going to do? He's going to fall in love with the picture. He does not want it rubbed out. Okay, so there is the middle of my story planned out for me. Let's have a think about the beginning. So in the beginning of the story, there are two main things that are going to need to happen. The first of those are that we're going to need to introduce Ralphie Rubber, or Ralph Rubber, to the reader, and we're also going to need to set the scene. So where is the story taking place? So I'm going to write where. So I'm going to say that this is taking place in a classroom, because that's where I think most of you will be right now, is in a classroom. You may be somewhere else, but let's go with a classroom. So Ralphie Rubber is in the classroom, and he is sitting on a desk, and he is watching, let's just put his eyes in, watching a picture being drawn. We've got the beginning. Where does it take place? In a classroom. He's sitting on the desk and he's seeing the most beautiful picture being drawn that he has ever seen. And he falls head over heels, madly in love with the picture that has been drawn. However, he is concerned because the person who is drawing it is saying, it's not right, it's not good enough, it's not good, I don't like it. And Ralphie Rubber is panicking because he does not want it to be rubbed out, and he doesn't want to be responsible for rubbing it out because he has fallen in love with the picture. So, end. What do you think we're going to need to do at the end? We're going to need to solve the problem. So the problem is that Ralph Rubber does not want the picture to be rubbed out. So how is he going to stop that from happening? Of course, he's going to come alive and he is going to say, hey, I think this is a brilliant picture. Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it's not beautiful. So Ralph Rubber says, hang on a minute, pal. Hang on a minute here. Look at this work that you have done. It's not perfect, but that is okay. It's okay for it not to be perfect. It's still a good picture. And I have to agree with that, because when you are an illustrator, and I should show you something, when you're an illustrator, we make lots of mistakes. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things called sketchbooks. Let me show you. Oh, Ralph Rubber might be a keeper actually, everybody. Pictures aren't always perfect. And you'll see in here there are loads of doodles that don't ever make it to anything because pictures aren't always perfect. But I keep them all because they show me the journey and they teach me how to get better, because when I make a mistake I can look back at it and say, that's what was wrong with it, so let's change it. Well done, Ralph Rubber. I think you're doing a really good job for me. I am actually super delighted with Ralph Rubber because he has pointed out to me what I fundamentally believe in and agree with, is that mistakes are good, the journey matters, and if you don't make mistakes, then how do you know where you're going to go and how you're going to get better? Now, I guess that we do use rubbing out, and we rub out things lots of times to make them nice and neat, and the end product does have to be neat. Don't get me wrong, I use a rubber. But I do believe that practice makes perfect, and I guarantee you that I would not have been able to create a book had I not made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mistakes and terrible pictures in the build up to that. I just didn't realise that Ralph Rubber would fall in love with them all and want to keep them all, which is interesting. But I do keep sketchbooks, and the sketchbooks keep all of the journey there for me so that I can look back and see the progress. And sometimes what that allows me to do is it allows me to look at the pictures and say, well, that part worked, but that part didn't. So let's keep that and bring that into the next image, and then I can rework that again. So the journey is really, really important. Let's get back to writing before I take us down a journey of illustration. Let's get back to the writing part. I have now your next task for you, which is you're going to be planning out your story. We're going to be focusing only on the beginning, the middle, and the end. You're going to be starting in the middle, going back to the beginning, and then bringing it to an end. Now remember, the middle is where the problem is. That's where you want something exciting to happen. That's the what I call the da 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 moment. So make sure you have that in the middle. When you come back, you want to think about at the beginning, setting the scene of the story. Where is this taking place? What is your character doing? And then at the end, how are they going to solve the problem? What's going to happen? And in my instance, and with the example I've got of Ralph Rubber, is he basically comes alive and he says to the illustrator, the drawer, the writer, your work is great. Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean that it's not beautiful. You should keep that, keep working, it will get better. Fall in love with the pictures you do, fall in love with the mistakes that you make, because they are valid and they are valued. Boys and girls, I kid you not, this is a story I've just come up with right now. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. You're going to do the planning stage now of planning out your whole story. Beginning, middle and end, starting in the middle. And I think for this I'm going to give you a little bit longer. But remember, when you're doing these exercises, you can pause the video, you can speed the video up. If you all get finished quickly, then your teacher might be able to skip it on. But I think for this, for planning the story, you will certainly need probably at least 10 minutes. So we're going to go with 10 minutes on the timer. 10 minutes to plan your beginning, your middle, your end. Remember, you don't need to rub things out. You don't need to panic about it. It's just brief notes. The only people that are going to read your plan are you, nobody else, and it's up to you to kind of really think about how your story is going to start to take shape. Remember to think about the arc, so you want to start here and go whoop, up to the top and whoo, down to the bottom. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes on the clock, and I might just sit and do another couple of doodles since I've got some peace and quiet to myself. Actually, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start writing the story of Ralph Rubber now while you're working on your plan. So here we go. 10 minutes on the timer. Beginning, middle and end, plan it up. Let's go. I'll be right back. That is your plan hopefully now done, and unfortunately this is the moment that I'm going to leave you to get on with writing your story. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a couple of more helpful hints and tips about writing stories, and specifically writing children's stories and picture books. Remember that picture books are usually read by children who are probably aged 2 and sometimes all the way up to age 6. So you want to make sure that what you write is appropriate, and that means that it has to be enjoyed by young children. It also can use tricky words, but not too complicated, because they will need to be able to understand what each of those words mean. But that doesn't mean to leave out difficult words, because it's important that they learn new words as they are reading. And the last thing I want to add is make sure your book is fun. Nobody wants to read a book if it's not fun and entertaining, and you want to be able to make the person reading it smile. So on that note, I'm going to let you hear the story of Ralph Rubber that I wrote in the last 10 minutes of your planning session, just so you can get an idea of how I think it should sound. Here we go. Ralph is a rubber, but he's not just any rubber. He belongs to a little girl who loves to draw. She would draw lots of things. Cars with big fancy wheels, lions with incredible manes, people with fingers and toes and eyelashes, and aeroplanes that would fly through the sky. But one day, she drew something incredible. Something that Ralph had never seen before. Something that Ralph thought was incredibly beautiful. All of a sudden, Ralph felt a bit funny. He felt warm and fuzzy, and his eyes went a bit whirly-girly. Ooh. It was love. Ralph was in love with the picture. But as he sat watching the little girl draw, disaster. "I don't like this picture," she said. "Oh, I'm just no good at drawing," she cried. "This is rubbish. I'm going to start again," she exclaimed. Ralph could feel the little girl's hand moving closer and closer to him. Finally, she picked him up. She was ready to rub out the picture. It would be gone forever. Ralph had to do something. "Stop!" he shouted. The little girl got such a fright that she dropped the rubber on the table. Ralph stood up, cleared his throat, and explained. "Listen, I love this picture. Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean that it's not beautiful." The little girl paused and looked at her drawing. Perhaps you're right," she sighed. "I'll keep this one and I'll try again later." Leaving Ralph on the table, she stood up and headed outside. Ralph smiled and gazed at his picture. He took the picture and he stuck it up on the wall. Ralph knew that this was the beginning of something special. The end. And I've added that to my stories for 2020, so you should all feel very excited that that's been added to my official story collection, because maybe one day I will take Ralph Rubber and do something with him and turn him into a picture book. But that is how easy it is to write a picture book story, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be just as simple as taking something that you have in your house or in your classroom, bringing it to life and creating a simple story around it. I really hope you guys have enjoyed today's session. If you do have any questions, then do feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. But good luck writing your story, and if you get a chance to share your stories with me, even better. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the rest of Book Week. See you soon. Bye. Bye.